Dr. Clendenning, here we are again, back on Total Disruption. Welcome, everybody. How you doing, Jake?
Good, man. How's the Michael Liberci today?
Man, I'm solid, dude. I'm solid. I feel good. I've had a couple of weeks of R&R. I feel good about myself. I feel good about my lot in life, and I want to talk to the guy building a house about mental agility. And I want to break it down for people. I want to know, I want to learn, I want to understand what's going on. Mental agility. You've had to have a tremendous amount of mental agility in the last 2 months, as have I. But in your case, with flip flopping roles for the average person, going from entrepreneur, parent, doer to living life, taking care of yourself, having some setbacks, and then having a deadline, right? The world is full of people right now that are trying to go that extra mile, do the side hustle, do the thing. Let's talk mental agility with Dr. Clendenning. What's going on there, man?
Yeah, so one house is done. So
Oh, congratulations.
we're done. We're moved in. Well, anybody that's ever moved into a new house before, whether it's brand new or new to you, done is a relative term. It will never ever be 100% done because you'll always find we got to dig this hole for this tree, or we got to add this thing over here, paint the fence, fix this thing. It's never 100% done. So there's some little fiddly stuff that still has to get done. There's some stained glass work that needs to be done in the cabinets yet. There's a little bit of not recessed lighting, indirect lighting that I have to play with yet, but it's all stuff that'll get done, and that's okay.
Okay.
And I had a good friend of mine call me about a week and a half ago. Mike knows I've been a little sick too, and that's just overstressing myself, just pushing way, way, way too hard, and so I've been a little off in that regard. And I had a really close friend of me call me and help me through that, particularly in like they knew I was off. They knew I was just straight up not playing right because I kind of reclused. I don't normally do that. I kind of disappeared, and they, reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, I know what's going on. We need to talk about this fictitious deadline that you have on the house," and walked me through just some of the affirmations about where I need to be as far as being healthy with my body and my physical and my mental well-being, not just digging and grind and grind and grind and grind on all fronts, right? Because Mike said it. And a lot of people are managing this right now. They're managing parentals, right? They're managing being a parent, being a family person, being a great spouse. Then you've got to manage whether you're an entrepreneur, you have a job, you need to manage that aspect of your life. You've got to manage the business part of your life, your marriage, your relationships. Because let's be honest, there is, right? There's what do we got to go to the grocery store? We got to look at our bills. We got to pay the water bill. There's a business aspect to that. And we've got to manage our emotional health. We've got to manage our spiritual health. And I had to, the friend that called me, she's like, "You wrote a book," and which was really funny because she called me out on my own stuff. And she's like, "I want to talk to you about your five rings. I want to talk to you. Let's talk about where you are in your health ring. If you were going to name it, and if you guys remember rings of impact, the five rings is faith, health, family, wealth, and business. Those are your five basic rings. Now, there's a lot of different derivatives of that, but this is the model that I chose to write about. And there's a reason that the first one is faith. That's your spirituality, whatever that may be, right? It doesn't matter. We're non-denominational here. We don't care. You can be whatever you want to be, but your spiritual health is a massive mainstay. It's a cornerstone in everything else. That's why we start there. And she said,
So
"Well,
hold that,
yeah,
hold that thought. So spiritual health, right? When we talk about spiritual health, whatever your deity is, we're not necessarily talking about devotional time, but that could be, if you hear it that way, that could be what we're talking about, devotional
mhm.
time. Sometimes for those agnostic or atheist people out there that don't have a deity, sometimes spiritual health is the self-care side where you're going inside yourself. You could think of it as an act of meditation, a walk, a absence of, and or a certain presence of. Like some people listen to frequencies and hertz as in healing language, healing music, reading books. It's that point in time where you can focus on one thing and nothing else.
Mhm.
And it's outside. It is a sense outside yourself, That way you don't sit here and think too much about yourself, which again, not to go too far down the dominational rabbit hole here, you can think about yourself excessively. So spiritual health is just that internal gear shift where you're removing the problem and then you're bringing in something else that is not what you're concentrating on. So go on,
Yep.
Jake.
Yeah, no, and you're 100% right, Mike. You're in that spiritual health, and there's you bring up atheists, and I'm not going to pick on the atheists, but I'm going to point something out. Just about every, I'm going to call them non-denominational people at this point, right? They may not believe in a higher power, they don't believe in a Buddha, they don't believe in a God, whatever. They out and out say that's not the thing. What I have found very interesting in listening to those friends of mine that are, is they in fact do, but it's more of a, they believe, like they're all about getting out, Mike said, getting out in nature and listening to nature. And they often reference Mother Earth. I hear it frequently from them, whether it's slip of the tongue or not, and that's okay. But there's a spiritual connection for them to the planet, right? So there's a big long chunk of research about grounding, and this is, pick your book, pick your one. There's a bunch of them, but grounding from an electrical standpoint. We were talking about building the house, and I actually am finishing up some electrical work. But grounding from a actual what your energy is, right? It's not about necessarily going out and earth bathing, rolling around in the grass naked and doing that kind of stuff, which is a thing, and that actually does something. Go out, take your shoes off, stand in the dirt, like ground yourself. If you think about an electrical connection, every electrical connection needs a ground. It has to run through a conductor into a ground rod that touches the ground so that the electricity can flow a certain way. There is a lot of research that talks about 5 minutes a day of this particular practice will realign all of the energy in your body. Call them protons, call them neutrons, whatever the little things bouncing around you want to call neutrinos, don't care. It gets everything flowing in a certain direction. It's actually really fascinating research to read. So check that out. Check out grounding. But that's a piece of it. And there's a connection to the earth. We're all part of it. We're all part of it, right? We were born here. We live here. We take up residence on this particular chunk of rock. And to connect with it is in a way a spiritual practice, right? Whatever religion, devotional thing you believe in, doesn't matter. So that's a piece. Like, get out in nature. And Mike said it, right? It's an opportunity to not think. And this has, when we're talking mental agility, this is those moments, and Mike has mentioned this a bunch of times. Mike, you specifically have practices around this, right? You have at least three times a day to where you stop and so let's walk through that again for the people that haven't heard those. We've mentioned a couple times. You have specific times during the day, whether they're set on your phone as a reminder or if they're just ingrained habitually in you, that you stop, shut the brain down, and back up.
Yeah. So real quick, let's go to grounding. I just did a quick search on Google, right? And it says grounding or earthing involves direct skin contact with the Earth's surface. It can reduce chronic inflammation by neutralizing free radicals, lower stress, cortisol levels, and improve sleep quality. So if you're suffering from any of that stuff and you don't want to take pills, it's a great methodology according to Dr. Google here. Grounding benefits. So I recommend that. Yeah. So I take a principle of grounding. I don't wear shoes a lot, and I like to basically take a break from whatever I'm doing, anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes. And I like to either move or sit still, not both. And I like to have a purposeful reduction in what I'm doing. Now, this could be driving in my vehicle with no sound. This can be, you have to remove at least one of your olfactory senses. You have to, I don't recommend driving with your eyes closed, but driving with just the sound of the outside. I recommend walking with no music or with music or with something monotone on. I recommend something that is a stop, a start, a stop, a start, where you at least remove one of your senses. If you're working in an office job, stop what you're doing, start either turning around and staring at the wall, stop that, turn right around and start working again. That's a break. Literally stop, start, stop, start. The in-between is the in-between. Now, what you want to reference is the fidget and the resistance and the boredom and the dopamine draw and the anxiety. You want to use 3 different breaks during the day. And these are not big breaks, but you want to use these breaks during the day where you say, wow, how anxiety ridden am I about this? What am I craving right now? Am I craving a YouTube video? Am I craving Instagram? Am I craving food? Am I craving a substance? Am I craving nicotine? Am I craving a dope? Am I craving something? And that's, to me, the secondary challenge. That just shows you how much noise you have. It's a feedback loop. And I'm always monitoring. You always have to monitor yourself. You ever see that guy who does the School of Hard Knocks?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about, Jake? That guy that does the School of Hard Knocks? He interviewed the guy from Jimmy John's. And the guy from Jimmy John's said he learned from a billionaire. Jimmy John's is like a sub shop the guy sold for a mint. And he said he learned from this billionaire that if you can't measure it, you can't track it. And if you can't track it or measure it, you can't do anything with it. If you're not mindful 3 times a day, let's say 1 time a day, but let's say 3 times a day. If you're not mindful 3 times a day, could be up to 5, then you're not tracking your life. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, you have to be at least present a minimum of 3 times a day. I don't give a crap who you are. And you have to feel what's affecting your body. Otherwise, the cumulative stress will just bring you down in an undisclosed time and at the most inopportune time. Mm-hmm. So, again, this mental agility, you're building a secondary resilience no matter what. You're looking at all these books and the people that have been through horrendous things and have trained their minds to refocus. This is a very, very fractional part of that skill. But if you don't prepare for it while things are good and you don't realize when things are good, things are bad, man. You're not going to love it, right? So yeah, that's my practice. And I've got a story a little later for you that's just going to help supplement this. So when we're talking mental agility, yeah, you did impose a deadline. And, how much older are you from when you first started building your house? Like your last house?
Oh, the last house that I did. Last house I did was 5 years ago.
So I don't care who you are or what age bracket you're in. A 5-year gap's a 5-year gap. If you're not out there humping houses for 5 years, right? You're not doing this every day. Even if you are, we're all different from 5 years ago. The entire body replicates itself in 7, I believe. So we are on our way to mid-replication of the body. And, as you move into the post-45 age bracket, and again, I don't care whether you're jacking peptides, you're hitting tests, you're doing whatever you're doing, you're feeling it. You're putting fuel in the tank and you're feeling it. But does that mean you should stop doing what you're doing? Absolutely not. You should maintain youth all the time. So like me personally, sometimes, man, I get up in the morning and I'm like, wow, what did I do yesterday? I feel like I got ran over. And I live a pretty clean lifestyle. And everything kind of feels sore and stiff. I'll start moving, force myself to start moving. And that really does help. And I always thought that was bullshit, but it's not. The older you get, the more you've got to actually force yourself to move until it's a habit. And if it's not a habit, then, it should become a habit. I'm a firm believer in when I say movement is medicine, it's totally medicine. Because again, this is expanding on the mental agility component. You've got to take time to make time for yourself. I know that was a lot of words, but take a time to make time for yourself. It's such an ancient practice. You can go all the way back to, martial arts, Japanese, meditation, Buddha. You start rolling off the 10,000-year woo practices that are out there that are super popular right now. And there's something to that information. And I do like the old Mother Earth deity, by the way.
It's been here for 10,000 years. There's a reason, because it still works.
Well, it does work, but it's one of those things where we've unfortunately, through the years, and I blame this on I don't blame anything, but maybe I'll lead it to alcohol. I'll lead it to pain medicine. I will lead it to fast acting things, caffeine. We need a fast acting state change that seems to be an external hand to mouth situation that sort of filtrates down into being a trigger for now it's time to relax. Now it's time to party. Now it's time to whatever. There's not this internal switch that flips in a lot of most Americans. It's just not there. You need that external substance or that permission. Hey, it's time to go to the bar. Now I can act like a complete maniac. Hey, I'm eating some edibles or I'm smoking a bong hit. Now I can really kind of open my mind and create. Or I'm doing my ketamine therapy, right? Or hey, I'm going out for my run. Like there's always this external thing. My biggest deal is why don't we practice with little to no extras, and let's figure that out. And then if we want to start adding bells, whistles, dogs, ponies, the show, let's do that, right? We want to start be in this big extemporaneous situation. Let's expand outward from inward. And I feel like mental agility is the sort of super benefit of a lot of people, because when a lot of people need to rely on themselves because no one else is around, being agile and being able to talk to yourself, or like you, right? You had one conversation with a friend and it changed your whole perspective. Yeah, okay. Kudos to your friend for reaching out, but that's mostly you. Like
It's a
you are
decision to make.
trained,
Yeah.
but you're honed. You're a blade that needed sharpening. You're a blade that needed minor sharpening, not like a full grind. And those of you that are out there that have let yourself get to a blade that's so dull it needs a full grind, get yourself back. Like take charge. I mean, you see it all the time. You see it all the time in famous people. You see it all the time in people that are taking hits on the internet. You see it all. Sometime you gotta really, you have to take accountability, and then it's just not a lot of fanciness. Sometimes it's just blunt force work, and it's the absence of. And that's where my break system really has helped me throughout the day, really refocus. And we all get off on tangents, don't we? I mean, I find that to be crazy, but we all
100%.
get off on tangents.
Yeah, and that's why we're talking about mental agility, and it's not about. And I want to give you a couple of hacks too, as far as throughout the day. But what Mike does is he's incredibly intentional about that stop start piece, right? Incredibly intentional about it, and that's what brings you present. I had another friend of mine years and years ago. Her name's Jackie Mahalchik. If she happens to listen to the show, I want you to know that I still use this. She had seen that I was super stressed out as a CEO at the time. And she led me through a relatively simple meditative practice at the time. It's very, very simple. And I want to give you the guys this one. I still use it. So I want to give Jackie credit. It is stop, close your eyes, and count how many things you can hear. Like
Fantastic.
it requires an astounding amount of focus in the moment. Like count how many things you can hear around your body. How many things can you hear 5 feet away, 10 feet away, 20 feet away, quarter mile away, right? You just work on this and you do this for 1 minute. 1 minute. And this is one of those, it centers you. It clears your brain. It shuts down, closes all the tabs that are open. One of my favorites that I saw years ago on the internet, talking about open tabs in your brain, was it's a visual of a kid wearing flippy fins, Hard Rock t-shirt, a Darth Vader mask, playing flaming bagpipes to AC/DC, sitting in a kiddie pool. And it was like, this is what all the tabs, it was awesome. And it was like, this is what all the tabs in my brain look like.
Let's go.
And I laughed about it, and I thought it was but it's true. So, but this simple little practice, like in whichever one works for you, but the closing your eyes and going, how many things can I hear? I can hear this. I can hear this. I can hear this. That's all you do. It shuts everything else down. Now, this gives you the clean slate to start to build this mental agility, the mental acuity to do other things. And then it's an organizational piece, right? That's the biggest piece. And Mike and I both deal with this all the time because we run multiple things all the time. I have to switch hats. So the key with that is I have to be able to say, all right, during this time period, it goes back to calendaring, this is what I'm doing. Only thing that I'm doing, shutting everything else down. I have to be so organized that my calendar runs me. I'm going to say that again. I have to be so organized my calendar runs me. So
I
literally
do it
during
all the time.
this entire project, it's, okay, during this time of day I'm a plumber, during this time of day I'm a framer, during this time of day I'm an electrician. I can't bounce back and forth. Otherwise, I'm going to electrocute myself standing in a bathtub of water. It's just not going to work, right? You've got to be clear on the particular thing you're doing at the particular time.
I want to play flaming bagpipes in a kiddie pool. So look, I did some fact checking real quick. Let's see. Meditation's been around for about 5,000 years. It gravitated from India to Korea, China, 6th century BCE. I've never even heard of BCE. We got wall art showing drawings of people sitting, clearing their minds from 5,000 to 3,500 BCE. I guess time went in reverse back then, 5,000 to 3,500, right? Like, did time start and then stop? This is all new to me. Again, these practices have been around for 5,000 years. You don't think those people had noise 5,000 years ago? You don't think they were trying to survive and live and do whatever? I guess the average age was probably 21. Right. You're talking about people that compressed a lot into a little. So there's your fact check on the how long stuff's been around and mental agility.
And it works. And we're not saying you've got to do extremely, yes, if you are a talented and schooled and you can be led in meditation, you don't have to sit down and meditate for an hour all the time. We're not saying that. Like, you need to take small incremental bites out of it to change the state that you're currently in so that you can focus. And we talk about getting in the flow zone. We've talked to the people that run that, getting into the flow. You've got to shut everything else down in order to be hyper focused in that moment on that thing. Like, that's just what it is. Because if there's a great moment in Game of Thrones, and I cannot remember what the guy's name was, but he was the quote unquote dancing instructor for Arya Stark when they were in the Capitol. And he was talking about, she showed up to practice the one day, just all worried and freaked out. And he said, "You're with your troubles." And then proceeded to whack her 2 or 3 times. And he says, "If you're with your troubles when you're in a battle, it's bad for you." So I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. Season 1 somewhere in there. This is all the information I tend to retain, but it's a great moment, and it's a great lesson of, you've got to be present in the moment. This is the mental agility. If you're not present in the moment and you're with your troubles, you're getting your ass kicked. That's how it's going to work, because you're not focused on what you're doing, whatever the thing is in that moment. So that's the truth, right? If I'm going to go walk a roof, if I'm going to stand up on my roof doing roofing and it's raining and it's kind of miserable out there and I'm thinking about something else, I'm coming off the roof, right? I'm going to take a digger and I'm
don't come off the roof.
Yeah, it's not a healthy situation, but I don't do that. You've got to be focused in the moment on the thing. That's what we're talking about with the mental agility piece.
So real quick, I did a little research here. Before Common Era is BCE, and no time did not move backwards. It's actually, I guess, historians figured out when year 1 CE is, and then BCE is before Common Era. So they just, I guess, whoever, I don't know what time modern is. I'm not going to go that far down the rabbit hole, but whatever time modern is, they went, okay, 1 back to what we can remember, and they numerically trace it. I don't know how accurate any of this stuff is, right? Like, who invented the backwards counting calendar system? That was crazy. I'd like to figure that out, right? Like, let's count backwards.
It was likely a Roman. That seems to be about when all that stuff occurred. Is you had everybody, all of the philosophers, Plato and Aristotle, and everybody. It was probably somewhere right about there. If it wasn't, who knows? Maybe it was Magellan. Who knows? But it seems to be right about that era of massive, big thinkers for their time.
Yeah, we have a lot of that going on right now. I mean, in the modern era, right? 10 years, what was it? 15 years ago or 7 years ago? How old's the iPhone, right? That's big thinkers, and now AI, and now that's the data centers. We are in the emerging place of big thinkers. I'll have to get to that in the next episode, though. So mental agility, man. Listen, we all said it. You need it. It applies to road rage. It applies to parenting. It applies to being a CEO. It applies to people who are sick, people who are healthy. Mental agility is a real prominent thing, and especially in our current climate where everyone's triggered. need a little bit more mental agility, folks. Jake, we're almost out of time, buddy. You have anything else to add besides what? Go to our website, total-disruption.com,
Sounds
and
like you
go
did
just
it.
explore
I would
our
say
world.
worst case, stop and count to 10. If you remember that from the 70s, that was a big deal. Stop and count to 10. But my favorite is close your eyes. How many things can you hear?
All right. Well, we're out of time, folks. We'll see you next time on Total Disruption. I'm Michael Aversa for Dr. Jake Clendenning. Now it's your turn to disrupt.